world was young, the mountains green, no stain yet on the moon was seen. Then with a crash came a great ringing shout, Ra, Oom, Ra. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie.
Talking about Tolkien, Ben.
It's talking about Tolkien, Nate.
And this time we are on chapter whatever I've lost track of, book 2.
7.
The Mirror of Galadriel.
The second magic mirror. I feel like Frodo even makes a joke about the mirror in this.
Yeah. But you mock the mirror, this mirror, not the other mirror, at your own peril.
Yeah, this mirror is the real deal. I gotta confess, I think this is maybe one of my favorite chapters.
Well, that's weird when the bridge to Khazad-dûm is right there.
I think Gandalf is my favorite character, but Galadriel is like tied or second favorite for me, which is weird.
She only in like 3 chapters.
Yeah, because most of she's only in 3 chapters and
in a movie. Yeah.
No, most of the stuff that's even written about her. So, and a lot of Tolkien's early writings, like drafts of the stuff that would become the Silmarillion, Galadriel did not exist. She was invented for Lord of the Rings. And then after writing Lord of the Rings, I think he started going back and trying to work her into the Silmarillion. And the final version of Galadriel, like the most recent one Tolkien wrote, is not the version that is in the Silmarillion. Christopher Tolkien chose to go a different direction and use one of the previous drafts.
Yeah.
It has important implications. She's either like a hero or casually complacent in kinslaying.
Sounds like she's the casually complacent kind of person.
That's what made the cut. So
yeah,
the final version, she fought against it, I guess. But
thankfully we got rid of that. It's not canon.
We threw that out. It's not canon.
Yeah.
It is not.
My hands are tied. So, Galadriel's kind of a piece of shit.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm going to quote Aragorn here and tell you that you will speak no evil of the Lady Galadriel.
Oh, I'm going to quote Cody Rhodes to John Cena. You're still my hero, but you're kind of a piece of shit too.
There's something to me about, I guess we'll do the summary. We'll save this. This is more like after stuff. We haven't had a good like after the summary thing in a while. So,
oh, good.
It's a fairly easy chapter to summarize. So let's see what we can do here. All
right. So they at last come across Karis Galadhun.
Do you want to take that again?
Karas Galadhun.
That is
Karis Galadhun.
I don't know. You're trying to say it dumb, so I don't know if I could say it.
You don't even know anymore.
Yeah,
I blurred the line enough. You don't know when I'm trying on purpose, or I just say it that way.
Well, it's when you purposely like struggle over the word and say it very slowly. One heavily
Galadon.
Karas Galadon.
I prefer my pronunciation, but to each their own. So Ben, why do the elves sure make a lot of things like gold and silver? Are those the trees, or do they actually covet precious metals?
A little column A, a little column B.
So they're not better than us, is what you're telling me.
No, I don't think they're
greedy assholes. Age of Men.
In all honesty, probably no better than us in the sense of like, when you're young, you lack wisdom, and you covet shiny things. It used to be gold and silver and jewels, and now I think it's like what, Fortnite bucks and sneakers and
Yeah, think. Can you imagine if elves were around like they started now, and then like generations from now, humans come upon elves who are just us, and they're like, "What is all this neon horse shit? What does skibbity mean?"
that's ancient elvish.
It's base.
Ski buddy. Speak ski buddy and enter. But yeah, I think Tolkien's he likes his golds, he likes his silvers, he likes the idea of starlight and moonlight for the elves because they were born before the sun.
So did Morgoth come to Middle Earth,
Yeah,
and the elves followed him here, and they weren't like supposed to come here, but they did because of the whole like swearing an oath of vengeance.
the Noldor did. Yeah,
So, and humans were supposed to inherit Middle Earth.
we still are. Yeah,
So if the gods didn't do anything, would the humans have just come around and then get totally fucked by Morgoth, killing them all?
we were there.
I see.
Yeah, no, we fought against.
What
Morgoth.
was the plan for us to inherit Middle Earth if the gods hadn't intervened?
We were working on it. I
We
mean,
were working on it. We'll eventually get around to maybe having a fraction of his power.
well, I don't know how deep you want to dive into that stuff, but a refresher for anybody who has forgotten, and I can't imagine how you could. It's so simple. The elves awaken, and they're discovered by the gods, and the gods invite all of them to go to Valinor, which is the place they have prepared for the elves. Because Morgoth is in the world, he's making all kinds of trouble. They just think the elves would be safer if they went with the gods. And some of them do. Many of them don't. Many of them
This
just
is
say
like the Noldor.
I'm not going to
and
get into the tribes
whatever.
here. I'll
and
tell
all
you.
that.
I'll tell you who you got to pay attention to. So if you want to check this out, we did a long thing about it in The Hobbit.
I still don't remember.
Yeah, but to give you that, we'll do it again if we get into the Silmarillion. But
We're getting into the Silmarillion. I bought the book, Ben.
here's the highlights. A group chooses not to heed the call of the gods. They stay behind. Another larger group decides to go with the gods. That group splits into 3 groups, and they leave sort of in stages. So like the first group goes, and the second group goes, and the third group goes. The first group is considered the most pious. The gods said jump, and the first group was like, how high, sir? And they went right west, due west, stayed on track. Second group took a little longer, lost a few people along the way, but they made it. Third group lost a lot of people. Some of them just sort of they found the beach and they were like, did you guys know the beach is awesome? And a lot of them just sort of hung out. And so you wound up with a bunch of elves that, you know, like we wanted to listen to the gods, but there's so much cool stuff out there. Like they're easily distracted.
That's the Teleri?
Yeah.
So, but the Noldor came back?
The Noldor are group 2. So they were the
Yeah.
second group to head out. And they went over. And the Noldor are kind of the most inclined to craft and making things.
And they're the ones who made the Silmarils. And then they came back. They swore the blood oath.
Yeah, they made the Silmarils.
So did the Vanyar just never come back?
I believe maybe they come back with the gods to help fight Morgoth, but then they just go right back. They have no interest in Middle Earth.
Gotcha.
The Noldor do have an interest in Middle Earth because they like
and that's what
messing with
Galadriel
stuff.
and Elrond are.
Well, Elrond is a little younger. I think Elrond was born in Middle Earth.
Is that a separate, entirely different group that didn't exist on this multi-stage
It's kind of messed up
chart?
because he's kind of like the child of people who emigrated and then immigrated. So
Yeah.
But Galadriel, not so. Galadriel was born in Valinor. She was a child of the people who left for Valinor. She was born in Valinor. She saw the light of the 2 trees.
So Elrond is an anchor baby.
Kind of, yeah. I don't even know if we should joke about that stuff anymore. There's stuff we used to joke about that we were like, oh yeah, Canada's America's hat. And then like that just became our foreign policy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'm going to avoid anything topical. I lost a lot of money today, Nate.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've looked
All
at
that
any of
Tesla
your
stock.
investments, but I'm going to need you all to get on that Patreon.
That's our retirement plan right now.
It's not a disaster. Like I think most of my money just switched to bonds, but I did lose some. Anywho, so Galadriel, she is in a group that comes back to fight Morgoth, basically. There's some unpleasantness that happens. She is not a part of it. In any version, she is not a direct part of the unpleasantness, but there's varying degrees of how much she resisted versus how much she saw what happened and was just like, oh shit, gotta go. And in all versions, she also comes back to Middle Earth without seeking the permission of the gods, which is another interesting thing for the Noldor that they kind of chafe under. They don't love that they have to ask permission to do stuff.
Sorry, it's Daddy's house.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you want the food from the fridge, you have to at least ask first. You know.
I think fuck you. Maybe I'm going back to Middle Earth. That's kind of the Noldor's attitude. So Galadriel is a part of that. She, at this point in the game, present day Quest for the Ring.
Wait, what the hell is Beleriand, Ben?
Oh, the Beleriand is... So you know the map of Middle Earth?
Is it a continent that gets sunk?
Yeah, well, we're still on that continent, but there used to be more of it.
There used to be a lot more of it.
Yeah, and we called that
There's an entire other half of this continent that's no longer there.
Yeah, like you know where the coast is
the
now?
sea used to be a lot further away.
Yeah, that was like another mountain range. So
they global warmed the fuck out of this, except I'm sure it was just God's.
Yeah, no, it was just kind of like
right?
a big old boot came down and yeah. But at this point, Galadriel is, I believe, the oldest. Maybe not the oldest elf in Middle Earth, because you got to take into account there's the elves that aren't ever written about, that never went. They could still be around, but she is the oldest of the high elves. She is the
hottest,
greatest of the Noldor. She is the hottest elf. She's renowned for her beauty, though interestingly, she's huge.
That's an interesting way to put it, yeah.
Oh, you think that's an interesting way to put it? Well, I'm going to drop some lore on you then. I was going to save this for the end, but we'll do it at the beginning. Maybe it'll make things more interesting. So the elves of Valinor had a tradition of giving both parents give the child a name. So they have a father name and a mother name. And Galadriel's father named her Artanis.
Oh my god. From StarCraft.
Yeah, no, they took that from this. Artanis means noble woman in Elvish.
Oh boy.
Her mother name was Nerwin, which means...
all I can think of is Erwin.
Well, Nerwin means man maiden, because she was really tall and built like a tank. She is incredibly physically strong. She did often take to wearing a mail and a sword. She fights. She fist fights, as you might be able to gather from how swiftly she shuts Celeborn down in some of the conversations in these chapters. And if that weren't enough, she was also just kind of born psychic.
Oh, is that what she's... I was going to ask, because she's talking about, like, I know his mind, and I'm like, is that literal, or, like, is she just figuratively talking?
So no one knows. Partly probably because Tolkien was still figuring out the character before he died, but also
Well, where the hell was Christopher to come and make one of those things canon, Ben?
But also, she just doesn't tell people. She tells people she's good at, like, she'll say, like, I'm good at reading people. But it's like, she's really good at reading people.
And people stopped wanting to play poker with her like 300 years ago. It just got old.
Yeah. It's, well, Galadriel's thousands of years old, if you're looking for a scale here. Galadriel was born before the first age.
Well, how can you be born before the first age? That's the first age.
They don't start counting time until it's in Middle Earth, because everything where the gods are is perfect.
Well, that's just not fair.
I guess she would be born in the era of the two trees.
Yeah, what should we call the loser age? Men weren't around, so
there weren't any men for me to hang out with. But yeah, she's psychic. At the very least, she seems to be able to read minds. She seems to be able to communicate telepathically. She has several magical artifacts. Like, this lady that's been playing the game, she's been max level for quite some time. She's got all the top tier gear. You're not gonna. The only person who's going to be able to give Galadriel any trouble is Sauron himself.
And even then, isn't he going to need the ring to?
They do say, I think at one point in the book, I forget where, it's not in this chapter, but somebody mentions that the only way that Lothlorien is going to fall is if Sauron himself comes to battle.
Okay.
Maybe with an army at his back, that would be enough. But that's what it would take. And she is, of course, married to Celeborn the Wise. Title I can only assume he was given out of pity.
Yeah. Celeborn the Wise, as opposed to Celeborn the sit down and shut up, Galadriel's talking.
Celeborn the looks pretty. He is the trophy husband.
There you go.
There is some, now I joke about that, but there is some sense that they're kind of opposites attract situation. She is a very in your face, powerful
and noble,
and Celeborn's
hot, and he's like timid, and
I wouldn't say
cries himself to sleep at night.
I wouldn't say timid.
You have to give him a warm milk, or else he'll stay up all night. And
I wouldn't say like delicate, but he's
99% of the power of Lorien is Galadriel. As soon as she leaves, men can just march right in.
Well, that's true. But there's kind of this thing with Galadriel where it's like many suitors tried to tame her, but only Celeborn was able to sort of rein her in. He tempers her. I don't know. She listens to him. She likes him. Nobody really knows why. Nobody gets it, but
he read him.
He does keep her from murdering everyone.
Okay.
So we were just so we were just kind of celebrating that. Good for her, you know.
That's Celeborn the Wise. There you go. Celeborn the Please Don't Commit Genocide. Please. I'm begging you. You've done enough murder already.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now with that refresher, elves do be loving gold and silver, and the party meets Celeborn and Galadriel. First, Frodo and Legolas, you'll go up, and then one by one, everyone else will enter.
Okay, it's like a single file ladder.
And we'll that is not what I got from that.
We can run up it. The elves can run up it like stairs, but the rest of you may need to like struggle with your 8 palms or whatever.
Yeah, I did write down elvish bullshit stairs ? So I guess that's what we're doing. I thought they just were like, you know what? We want to have elaborate entrances for everyone. So come up one at a time. We'll cue up your theme song. We'll announce you. And then I guess we'll fight or something. It's elvish wrestling, Ben. Anyway, Celeborn starts the conversation, but Galadriel's going to finish it. Basically, um, why she can't read Gandalf, apparently, is what I gathered from this. And unless he's like in Lorien, she can't read him.
Yeah, she says a
And
gray mist is about him, which I didn't. I was actually interested in that line on a second read because she says she can't sense Gandalf, and then she says there's a gray mist about him, and I was trying to think, is that, I think Tolkien might be playing with us a little bit here because she's not saying she can't see him at all. She's just saying there's a mist about him, or is that a poetic way of saying I can't see him?
now, is that because he is part angel, and by part I mean he is an angel, or is it because of the ring, or both?
I would say it could be because he's part angel. It could be because he's locked in an epic battle for his life at the moment, or dying and being resurrected.
Oh, I figured she just couldn't see him unless he was in Lorien.
There's also that possibility. I wonder though, because this is another thing with Galadriel's powers. Is she saying she can't see him with magical clairvoyance, or is she saying like with her innate clairvoyance, or with like the mirror she can't see him?
Can you force it to do that every single time? I mean, I know she says she can direct it, but I was under the impression like maybe not fully control it.
She can't fully control it. The mirror's going to do what the mirror's going to do. But my point is, if you look long enough, I mean, it's unclear if like she could never see Gandalf, or if just now she can't see Gandalf. That's my point, I guess.
I see. I interpret it as never. He's always a bit out of focus for her unless he actually physically enters her realm. But I guess it could go either way. So, yeah, and there's also a Morgoth reference. I guess I didn't get this as a kid because I didn't know who or what the fuck a Morgoth was, but the Balrog is his servant. They talk about that. And then Celeborn gets a little upset that the Fellowship fucked around and found out in Moria and stirred up a Balrog and all these orcs, and he was like, God, maybe I shouldn't have let you come in. And Galadriel's like, come on, don't be an idiot. Come on.
At first he says, welcome, everybody, even Gimli. Like, Gimli, I appreciate a little dwarf humor every now and then.
We're waiving the law every now and then. Mean like every 600-700 years.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
One of you people can come around.
Yeah, Gimli, I wouldn't let you marry my daughter, but we're cool. And then Legolas is like, he was taken by a Balrog, the bane of all elves, and the dwarves, they delve too greedily and too deep. And Celeborn's just like, that's what I get. That's what I get for letting a dwarf into my home. You guys are stirring up Balrogs in there. You're stirring up Balrogs. Well, you know what, Gimli? If I had known that, I'd have told you to get the fuck out and everybody who came with you. And, this is even making me starting to question if maybe like Gandalf even knew what was going on. If he would take you through Moria, knowing that the dwarves were up to all this shenanigans. And that's when Galadriel's like, hun, shh.
The adults are going to start talking now.
She's like, if you say one more bad thing about Gandalf, I'll smack that pretty mouth. And she says that Gandalf always has a reason for what he's doing, even if we don't know what it is. And we're going to trust him on this one. And also, you can't blame Gimli for wanting to go to Moria, which I think is what they were blaming him for. It was like that Gimli voted to go to Moria.
Yeah, how dare you want to go to your home?
Well, and that's what she says, that if you had been kicked out, you, Celeborn, had been kicked out of Lothlorien for, hundreds of years, and you happened to be walking past it on a journey, even you would be tempted to stop by and see what it looked like now, even if it had become the den of dragons. So don't blame Gimli for wanting to see the checks notes. Yeah, don't blame Gimli for wanting to see the dark water of Keled Zaram and the cold springs of the Kibal Nala, and fair were the many pillared halls of Khazad Dûm in the elder days. And Gimli is just like, I have never had a giant lady speak Dwarvish to me.
And
I'm into
it.
it. That's my thing, I guess. I just discovered something about myself here. Legolas, you're right about this place. Wow. That triggered something in me. And Galadriel just winks at him.
Galadriel, they mentioned she's from Gondolin. She crossed the mountains over here to fight the Long Defeat, as they call it.
But yeah, the Long Defeat quote, this is one of the most famous ones from Tolkien because he said as a Catholic, he views most of human history as just fighting the Long Defeat, waiting for...
Yeah, well, now we have antibiotics.
I think they had antibiotics. Well, they definitely had machine guns when he wrote this. Oh man, did we invent machine guns first?
We did.
Oof.
Antibiotics came after World War II.
That's like finding out that like trees or sharks are older than trees. Like it really seems like one of those things should have come first.
Sharks older than trees?
Oh yeah, sharks are way older than trees.
Like modern sharks, though.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
not even like the gigantic horror sharks.
I don't know if like the exact species that are alive today are, but like sharks are pretty much unchanged. Like Megalodon is just a big great white.
Oh my god. And they came before. I guess ocean life probably developed first.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah, because there was no soil or anything.
Wow. And then the elves came over and they planted all their trees and
yeah, because you gotta figure, I think the first life on land was fungus. And then that dies and decays, and then eventually you get a layer of topsoil. And then you can have like ferns and trees and stuff, but yeah, it was just rock.
And we're going to do that for Mars.
Yeah, no, it sounds super easy.
How hard could it be?
But yes, he dwelt in the west since the days of dawn, and I have dwelt with him years uncounted. For ere the fall of Nargothrond or Gondolin, I passed over the mountains, and together through the ages of the world we have fought the Long Defeat. It was I who first summoned the White Council.
I wanted to say that.
And if my designs had not gone amiss, it would have been governed by Gandalf the Grey, and then, mayhaps, things would have gone otherwise.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad about it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It's like, yeah, if I had gotten my way, we wouldn't even be in this mess. We probably would have already won. But, I guess we called it the White Council, so the White Wizard had to be the guy. I guess that's how that works. Probably should have just called it the Grey Council. That would have worked a little better, but
I mean, this is spoilers, but when Gandalf comes back, Galadriel's the one that gives him a white robe.
Oh, okay.
Says congrats on the promotion.
I did not realize that. I thought he just shows up in the Fangorn Forest.
In the movie,
and he's
does,
like,
but
I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing.
No, in the book, she's. I don't know how she senses he's alive, but she summons Gwahir the eagle to go pick him up, and she gives him a white robe and a new staff.
Well, I mean, we don't even have a white wizard anymore.
But like that's why
in the movie, Saruman was still the White Wizard till the very end. But in the books, he's now the many colors.
Saruman the Bling Lord.
All right, so yeah. So then she says that line from the movie: "The Fellowship stands on the edge of a knife, and if they go astray, they'll fall to ruin. But hope remains as long as all of you are true." And Boromir is like, "Yeah, guys, as long as we're all true, we'll be fine." Boromir, you're a bro. Well, we're all gonna be fine. We've got that hope that remains as long as you remain true.
Mad fact.
And then she starts looking at him, testing their resolve. Ben, seemingly they think that she's offering them some stuff. Maybe
Legolas and Aragorn, they're fine with it.
Yeah, they're the only ones who don't turn away.
Legolas is loving every minute of this, and Aragorn's like, yeah, this is nowhere near as tough as the time I asked for your granddaughter's hand in marriage. So I'm coasting now.
Yeah, yeah. If I complete this quest, I get that and a kingdom. So you really can't tempt me anymore. So yeah, afterwards they're like Pippin's making a joke or something, and they're all like, "Oh, I think she was tempting us." And Boromir is like, "Well, the men of Minas Tirith are strong, proud, surely race that would never betray a comrade for any reason."
What did she tempt
I don't
you?
even
What did she tempt
I
you
don't-
with, Boromir?
I don't even have to tell you that not only did I tell her no, but I told her hell no.
But what did you want, Boromir?
I wanted I said no. Hell no. I said hell no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would never betray. You know what? You even asking me that makes me think maybe you're the suspicious one, huh? Maybe you were tempted by something.
And
Yeah, how do I know you're not tempted?
Boromir does try to grill Frodo.
Yeah, yeah. So Frodo, what'd she show you?
I ain't telling you shit, Boromir.
Come on,
Shut
Frodo.
up, Boromir.
Come on. You can tell Boromir.
Frodo just
Is she
walks
tempting
away.
you with dark magic? Is she maybe an evil witch? Come on, you tell me. You tell your old Boromir.
She's literally 3 times my size, Boromir.
I like, and I'm into that.
I don't know where. I was reading some wiki or something. I have no idea where they got this. But some wiki is claiming that Galadriel is 6'4".
Gotta be at least 7.
I was gonna say, like, that's tall, but that's not like tallest woman ever recorded, you know?
Yeah, I want her to be able to look eye to eye with the Big Show.
I'm thinking like Shaq.
There you go, 7'4".
Big Aristotle.
7'6".
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how also all the Fellowship sleep on couches.
They do bring. I think that's old timey couch.
Yeah. It was like a futon.
Yeah, I don't think they brought out futons. I think they brought out like luxurious cushions and stuff.
Yeah, we couldn't be bothered to get you a bed because you're just like, yes.
Well, the hobbits are very intent on sleeping on the ground. They've really had enough of these tree houses.
I was going to say also Legolas is being kind of a prick hanging out with all the elves by himself, but he actually takes Gimli most of the time that he's out.
He does, and it's weird because they make it weird. I highlighted this actually because it sounds like explicitly homoerotic. Legolas was away much among the Galadrim, and after the first night he did not sleep with the other companions, though he returned to eat and talk with them. Often he took Gimli with him when he went abroad in the land and didn't come back at night. And who knows where they slept.
On couches.
With the world's tallest woman. And that's my fan fiction.
So Frodo makes a song for Gandalf.
Yeah, he tries.
He tries. He's not the song maker that Bilbo is or whatever.
I do like how even Sam's like, "You're a regular old Bilbo," and Frodo's like, "I'm not that good." And I was like, "Oh boy, I feel bad for everyone who's not a hobbit having to listen to these people."
The fate of the world rests in these people. We're fucked.
Maybe a fool's hope.
So then Frodo and Sam start talking about elves and elf magic, and then Galadriel takes them both to the mirror, and Sam's like, "Oh boy, howdy, I sure do love elf magic. I want to see." And so he looks into the mirror first, and he sees what I believe is the scene after Frodo gets got by the spider, Shelob. He's pale. He looks dead. Sam is desperately looking for something. I think that's the ring that he's looking for, if I'm not mistaken. I think he'll bring that up in the third book, won't he? He'll be like, "Oh my God, this is what I saw in the mirror," but not the mirror, the good mirror.
So let's see. What are the things Sam sees? Oh, by the way, this is where Frodo makes a joke before he looks into it. He's like, "I'll probably just see stars or something I don't understand, but here I go." He's like, wow, Frodo,
Yeah.
the mirror is like a sacred site.
He
You shouldn't make fun of it like that. But
so he also sees the Shire and trees getting logged that shouldn't have been logged, and the old mill is being replaced by a brick one. And then Sam is like, "Oh my god, I need to get back to the Shire. Some tomfoolery is happening." And he's like, "I think that's why Elrond wanted to send Merry back to the Shire. But hold on, Sam, because Elrond wanted to send Pippin back to the Shire. That's right."
well, first he wanted to send Mary, and then he was like, okay, well, if Mary's going to go with them, for Christ's sake, I've got to at least send that one back.
That will okay. All right. Well, shit. I guess I'm not the Tolkien lore master then. All I remember is he really wanted to get rid of Pippin, and
He wanted to send Pippin and Mary back, and then they're like, well, no, they want to go, and he's like, well, at the very least, Pippin can't go, right?
and Gandalf was like, "I need someone I can hit."
And that's when Pippin
And-
says, you'd have to send me back in a sack. And that's when Elrond was like,
And
bring
Elrond
forth
was
the
like,
sack.
Yeah, get the sack. Let's
Yeah.
go. And then Gandalf was like, "Well, hold on. I could really use a punching bag." So
This
I'm
party
willing to
could
take
really
him on.
use a punching bag. There's going to be a lot of unresolved tension here.
So, anything more about what Sam sees?
No, the only thing, I think he starts to see some scouring of the Shire stuff.
It sounded like that, and maybe of what was to eventually happen to Hobbiton in general.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is Sam initially had wanted to see elf magic. Sam says two interesting things. Before they go to see the mirror, like right before Galadriel shows up, he says something about the elves of Lothlorien being a little bit different to the elves he's met so far, in that the elves he's met so far seem kind of like wanderers, like they don't have roots anywhere. They're
Homeless people.
They're just kind of like looking around, and it's all temporary.
They're hippies.
But when he's in Lothlorien, he says it feels like the Shire. Like these are people who belong here, and not a lot seems to happen here, and in a good way. Like people are just content, like they were in the Shire, and that's interesting, and probably points to what Galadriel's got going on here. But after he looks into the mirror, and it's interesting because it's coming from Sam, because Sam's so pure of heart and he's so genuinely interested in everything. He says, I wish I had never come here, and I don't want to see no more magic. And then he fell silent, and after a moment, he spoke thickly as if struggling with tears. No, I'll go home by the long road with Mr. Frodo or not at all. And I think this is like that one stuck out to me because as far as I know, all the shit they've been through and all the shit that especially Sam has already done for the group, this is the first time where Sam is actually feeling it. I think this is the first time it's actually gotten to him. And I don't know, it felt very real to have that, like, just that genuine person start to crumble here.
Well, Sam, you better nut up, because you're only like a third of the way through this journey, buddy.
Well, what about Frodo? You did not wish to see elf magic. You want to see some elf magic, Frodo?
I'm gonna read a quote about him offering the ring at the end of this, because I laughed. So, first he sees what he thinks might be Gandalf clad in white, but he's not sure if it's Gandalf or Saruman. I think it's Gandalf.
I think it's Gandalf. I think that's
future.
foreshadowing Gandalf the White.
And then he sees Bilbo doing something. And then he sees the sea. And then I just wrote next to that, Ben, this one is all on you. I'm not even going to bother taking notes.
So
I was like, I can't keep track of this. Ben will probably have an explanation.
So yeah, he sees the sea. He sees a great storm. He sees the sun. He sees sails riding up out of the west. A white fortress with 7 towers. And then again, a ship with a black sail. And I think he sees the sign of Gondor on it. I kind of wondered if maybe he was seeing. I'll be real with you. I didn't look anything up, and I kind of don't want to because I like having my own interpretation of this. It feels to me like he's seeing when they talk about the West and they talk about these towers and stuff and the ships with the trees. I kind of wonder if he's seeing Numenor.
Oh. I had no idea. I was wondering if this might have been across the sea.
It could be. It could be Valinor. It could be. But he mentions black sails with the white tree, which that sounds like Gondor. And he mentions like the ship coming from the west with tattered sails. And I don't know what he's seeing. I could be a lot of things, but I don't know. I kind of wondered if he was seeing flashes because I like the idea that the Mirror of Galadriel is kind of all over the place. Like it could show him because you would think about it, like what would be the use of seeing like stuff that's already happened in the mirror? But like to see the fall of Numenor or something that like or like, if you had a mirror like this, you would always be tempted to look forward, right? Because you want to know the future. But like, wouldn't it be cool to just like, what did dinosaurs look like?
Did the elves ride and or hunt them?
I'm sure there's a creationist museum somewhere near you specifically that will say they did. But he also sees a third thing. Do you remember the third thing?
Is this the Eye of Sauron?
The Eye of Sauron. The one time Tolkien described the Eye of Sauron, and he drew a picture of it.
Became what Sauron just was.
Yeah, he drew a picture of it, and then Peter Jackson took this extremely literally. But did you happen to notice the description of the eye? There's a detail that I want to call out.
Which part? It's a cat-like eye.
It's a cat-like eye. I don't know if there is a version where I think Tolkien is playing with Sauron shapeshifting into a cat, and I've talked before about how cats are like always evil.
Yeah,
so
obviously, fucking clawing up my carpet, piece of shit.
But there's an interesting thing Frodo says is that he knows that this eye is searching, and he knows that it's searching for many things, and among them is him, Frodo. But he also knew that it could not see him. Not yet. Not unless he willed it. And then this is where Galadriel says some of the stuff from the movie where she says, I know what you saw because I have seen the same thing. And this is when she tells him, don't go thinking that what protects Lothlorien is just good vibes or even elvish weapons. What protects Lothlorien is one thing and one thing alone. And she shows him the ring, Nenya.
Motherfucking ring.
She is also a ring bearer, and I did enjoy this. She lifted up her white arms and spread out her hands to the east in a gesture of rejection and denial. That could only be the middle finger, right?
That's a good point.
What would the gesture be? I guess it could be the British two fingers, but
that is not as funny.
Yeah, it's funnier in many ways. I like imagining Galadriel as a Cockney.
So then Frodo offers her the One Ring, and she does the thing from the movie where she's like, wow, I've often wondered like what I would do if I had the opportunity. And then I'm going to just quote this entire section and hope that I don't get copyright struck by Scholastic or some stupid shit. And now at last it comes, you will give me the ring freely. In place of a dark lord, you will set up a queen. I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night, fair as the sea and the sun and the snow upon the mountain, dreadful as the storm and the lightning, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me and despair. She lifted her hand, and from the ring that she wore there issued a great light that illuminated her alone and left all else dark. She stood before Frodo, seeming now tall beyond measurement, and beautiful beyond enduring, terrible and worshipful. Then she let her hand fall, and the light faded, and suddenly she laughed again, and lo, she was shrunken, a slender elf woman, clad in simple white, whose gentle voice was soft and sad. I passed the test, she said. I will diminish and go to the west and remain Galadriel. And then the next line is, they stood for a long while in silence. I'm just imagining she's giving this speech. She's looking humongous. She looks terrifying. Suddenly she just stops. She laughs. She said, I passed the test. And Frodo's just like staring at her like, what in the fuck just happened? Do I say something? What would I even say to this?
I do enjoy the moment of awkwardness. Now, it's obviously meant to be a moment of pause and understanding, because there's another little element to this. If I may read another quote, when Frodo offers her the ring, there's difference in an important difference in how she responds. In the movie, she's like, "You offer it to me freely." And she's all weird and creepy. In this,
and then the negative filter.
yeah, well, then that happens. Peter Jackson's not a subtle man. So, but in this one, she responds by laughing, almost sarcastically. And she's sitting there laughing at the absurdity of what has just happened. Because Galadriel, here she is. She's this mistress of magic, warrior woman, master of her own domain. These heroes on their quest have come to her, and she has shown each one their weaknesses and tempted them to abandon the quest just to test them. And here she is testing Frodo further. And then Frodo, of all people, a man who is 2 to 3 feet tall, literally at a minimum 1/3 her size, says, and 1/3 her size, and just an immeasurably small fraction of her lifetime has this person lived. He says, I'll give it to you if you want it. And all of a sudden she's being tested. She's the one
Yeah,
who
I
now
caught that.
has to do this. And she said, wise the Lady Galadriel may be, yet here she has met her match in courtesy. Gently are you revenged for my testing of your heart at our first meeting. And you begin to see with a keen eye. And then she says the rest of the quote, but this is another one where I think you can interpret it a couple of ways. Like, does Galadriel obviously thinks it's funny and that Frodo is testing her. But I wonder, is Frodo testing her?
I did not think that he was. I think she thought he was. I think he was like, why don't you take it? I don't fucking take it from me.
I think
you do the rest of it.
I think there's an element of that, but I also think there's an element of Frodo knowing she would say no. And in the movie, it's very clear that Frodo would love to be rid of this burden. That's the interpretation the movie takes, and it's a valid interpretation. Probably the correct interpretation. But there's another interpretation where in the book, Frodo is smart. Very smart, actually.
Yeah.
And confident. Could he actually be acknowledging a kindred spirit in Galadriel a little bit? Like, he could never match her power or anything like that, but both of them are kind of lonely figures in what they are and what they know. Like, Galadriel is basically a goddess among elves, and Frodo, undeniably, like, the wisest and most heroic hobbit there ever could be. And they're kind of both, and I think that's why they stand in silence at the end there, is because they've both just sort of pushed each other to their limits. There's this just notion between the two of them that they are both beings that are caught up in some deep stuff, and they both have their role to play. And this was just a meeting that had to happen. And they're not really in control of it. And I think both of them acknowledge that. And that's why they just sit in silence for a minute at like this is so weird. After the silence, Frodo asks an insightful question. I'm sure you were going to get to this.
Gibbity?
Okay, well, you were not. I would ask one thing before we go. A thing which I often meant to ask Gandalf in Rivendell.
What did you see? What Boromir see? He was acting really weird, and I kind of want to know now.
I am permitted to wear the One Ring. Why
yes.
can
I was gonna bring that
why
up.
cannot I see all the others who wear the rings and know the thoughts of those that wear them?
Because your willpower is too low. You don't have high enough stats. You gotta train. And we don't have a hyperbolic time chamber, so you don't have the time necessary to master this. And also, if you did master it, wouldn't be so great. You would you'd become a dark hobbit lord.
She says all of that, but she says one more thing, the most important thing, and it's the first thing she says. You haven't tried.
Yeah.
You haven't tried to use the ring to read people's thoughts, to dominate their will, to violate them, basically, to just take control of people, to rob them of their sovereignty. And you could maybe in time, if you wanted to learn how to do that. But obviously that's not going to be a good thing. And she does at one point in all of this conversation say, wouldn't it be hilarious if after all these years of fighting Sauron, the final trick of Sauron's ring was he convinces me to murder my guest and take the ring by force, which is something Sauron would have thought she might be tempted to do. And indeed she was tempted to do it. And then Frodo just straight up offered it to her, and the absurdity catches her off guard. But she tells him another thing too, which is you're not unaffected by it. You do have powers developing here. Like, your sight has grown keener, and you have perceived my thought more clearly than many are accounted wise. And that's why I don't know if he knew he was testing Galadriel, but he knew she'd say no. And she didn't know she'd say no. And he's not intimidated by her, not really. And then she points out that you can see my ring on my finger.
Yes.
And she goes,
Sam can't.
Do you see this ring? And he's like, no. And I'll be honest, I was very confused what you all were talking about. And that's a thing that is often overlooked. And I do actually think the movies did a good job of this. You don't see the rings on their fingers, except when Frodo talks to Galadriel. And then at the end, Gandalf is wearing a ring when they get on the boats. But at no other time do you see Gandalf wearing the ring.
I didn't even notice that.
You wouldn't notice it unless you know Gandalf has a ring of power and you're looking for it. Where's the ring? But you notice when it's on his hand. And they could have done more with that, actually. But I do think they handled it well. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. If they realize even that there are 3 elven rings, I think that's totally lost on a lot of people who read this for the first time. Because she throws so many words at you.
There are 3.
Yeah, she does. But like, how many people, like, she also said the ring's named Nenya and it has the power of water and she has a watery mirror. Does anybody remember that? Pop quiz. We just covered this. What is Elrond's ring? What element?
Air.
Yes. You're doing better than the last time.
It was either air or earth, and I was like, I'm pretty sure there's not an earth ring, and I know Gandalf has fire.
And I just told you Galadriel has water. But no, I think the 3 elven rings and their powers are lost. But this is a chapter too where nobody really knows what. A lot of people complain they don't know what the One Ring does. Galadriel's listing a lot of its powers here, but I think it hits you like there's so much going on. There's so many like weird words floating around that I think people lose it. But the one final quote, and this is what I would end, and this is how the chapter ends. Sam says to Galadriel, But I think Frodo has a point. If you took this ring, I bet you could put a lot of things right. You'd make some folk pay for their dirty work. And Sam has no idea who the fuck he's talking to. And that I love that. When Sam says, I bet if you took this ring, you could make some people, you could really fuck some people up with it. And Galadriel says, I would, she said. And that is how it would begin. And we know, and maybe a first time reader does not, but we know that, yeah, in place of a Dark Lord, you would have a fucking queen. And you're going to love me whether you want to or not. So, and that's the thing Tolkien talks about in his letters a lot. We talked about this a bit in earlier episodes, but part of the reason Gandalf taking the ring wouldn't work is because even if Gandalf could beat Sauron, Gandalf would force people to do good. He would enforce strict moral codes and things like that, and in doing so, he would kind of lose the point of doing good. Like, it's not, without right intention, it doesn't quite equal good deed, and he would rob people of the choice to do good, which robs good of the point. I think Galadriel would just kill people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what are you going to do? What else do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I love Galadriel. I love, maybe saying favorite character is the wrong thing. I love the role she plays, like the mythological role she plays. A character who has had all of this power, made all these mistakes, and is now kind of settling down and becoming the wise figure. There are multiple times in this chapter where she says, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not a counselor. All these people, everywhere you go, have stopped to tell you advice. They've stopped to give you the wise counsel of the sage. I'm not a sage. That's not Galadriel. But she's kind of grown into that role whether she wants to or not. And I think that's interesting. Like, she settled down with this husband. She has people she takes care of now. She's changing, and it's time to go back to the West. And there is one poignant thing that I think pointed to, like, the wisdom she's learning almost against her will. So she tells Frodo, and I guess we didn't cover this, and we should, but obviously we've talked many times about how the elves sustain their kingdoms with these rings. And this is where she straight up. So when he was talking to Elrond said, maybe the elven rings will still work after the One Ring's destroyed. And Galadriel is like, no, you coming here now, Frodo, means we've got two choices. We either stay here, I take the ring from you, and we let the power of our ring stay in effect, and ultimately we get overrun by the armies of darkness, or we help you destroy it, and in doing so you destroy our kingdom. So it's tough to
but like, how long is it gonna take for the magic of the rings to fade?
It does. When you're immortal, anything less than like forever is not good enough. So
fucking elves.
Frodo asks her, what do you wish to happen? And she replies, that what should be shall be. The love of elves for their lands and their works is deeper than the deeps of the sea, and their regret is undying and cannot ever be wholly assuaged. Yet they will cast away all rather than submit to Sauron, for they know him now. And I think that's another one of those like thesis statement of the book moments where she's saying, what I want is that what's supposed to happen happens. And we elves have finally learned the lesson of Feanor. We finally learned that the stuff we make though we're really attached to it, like Frodo, you have no idea how attached to this place I am. We're not making any more deals with devils. We're going west. We're going to give it all up.
Yeah, we already tried that making a deal with the devil thing, and it did not work out for us.
In fairness to Galadriel, when Sauron got it in his head to become Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, he did go to Galadriel and Celeborn and offer his services, and she told him to fuck off.
I'm a little concerned about a guy randomly showing up as the Lord of Gifts, just giving free gifts out.
Celeborn was like, "Well, you don't look like a dwarf to me, so come on, shh. Get out." Yeah, it's the Mirror of Galadriel. We only have one more chapter with my favorite elf.
All right. That's the end of the mirror of Galadriel.
The mirror. And now Galadriel has resigned herself to the Age of Man.
Age of Man, and that is what Aragorn is going to be saying, screaming at the end of this.
The road goes ever on and on, down from the door which began. Now far ahead the road is gone, and I must follow it, if I can, pursuing it with eager feet until it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet. And whither then, I cannot say.